Sachinandan Swami Maharaj. And also over the years he has been involved in a lot of kirtan. He's a very good mridanga player, he's a very good kirtaniya. If you've ever been to any of our Gora Arti kirtans or festival kirtans, then you might have seen Prabhuji, and it's always electrifying. And he's really nicely glorifying Krishna through his holy names. And after his brahmachari life here at the temple, Prabhuji then engaged in studies. He studied here at Uni Zurich pedagogy or educational sciences. So he's been working with children and young adults ever since. And he's also right now working in the in Schaffhausen, in the Schaffhausen law district, let's say.
It's affiliated to the court.
Affiliated to the court. And so he's supporting the social services there. And so we're very happy that Prabhuji is with us here today. And we will hear about the topic.
Well, the topic was, the title in German was Regeln im Krishna-Bewusstsein und wenn diese materiellen Wünsche nicht wären.
Oh. So, rules and regulations in Krishna consciousness. What if these material desires were not there? Let's see. That sounds very interesting. So please, come a little closer, as close as you can. And
Das ist Prag. Ist besser? Ja, vielleicht. Ja.
Come closer. Close. And ja, genau, wir werden eine deutsche Übersetzung haben und auch Russisch. There will be a Russian translation for those of you who like. Deutsch, yes. So, ich weiß gar nicht, wer macht Deutsch. Müssen wir noch schauen. Okay, vielleicht für Deutsch, wenn jemand deutsche Übersetzung möchte, würden wir sonst hier in der Ecke eine machen. Und ja, könnt ihr doch noch ein bisschen näher kommen? Wäre das okay? Warum nicht? Das ist doch nice. Dass auch die Leute, die später kommen, noch Platz haben. Okay, then, please, over to you.
Okay. Okay, and then Mridanga. Okay. So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, dear Sunday guests, welcome to the Krishna temple, to our Sunday class. The Sunday class is the most challenging class because everybody's sitting in the audience. Is someone here for the first time? Oh, welcome. Is English fine for you? We are a bit of an international society, so it's a bit English. Okay. So we start in our tradition, before we give a class, we sing a song. So for those of you who know, please join along. And for those who don't know, just listen and see how it feels. Oh, actually the text is even come. Oh, wonderful. Great. It's a song about Krishna in Vrindavan. And the text is right there. Oh, what is it? Is that the text? Oh, okay. Looks good. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatiravana Chari Yamunatiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada So in our tradition, before we speak on a spiritual topic, we say some prayers. In Sanskrit, it's called Mangala Charan. Mangala means auspicious, and the Charan is the way of auspiciousness. So because the understanding is that I'm also listening, actually. I'm trying to be an instrument of the spiritual topic, so I should also listen to myself. Not only you are the listeners, me too. So I'm praying for empowerment, praying for the blessing, so I can speak something which might be of interest to you. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Miritang Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistang Stapitang Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Nityananda Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalokalmashanashaya Janavapate Namaha Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratushe Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripasindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, I'd like to start. The title of my class is Rules in Krishna Consciousness and If These Material Desires Wouldn't Be There. So my wife told me when she heard that title, she was like, what a funny title is that? So I'd like to ask you first, if you hear that title, what is going through your head? Maybe someone feels free to say something, can be in German too.
Maybe there's like a conflict between material desires and the rules. Spiritual life.
Mm-hmm. Someone else had some thoughts, can be also very critical.
Maybe you can help us out to indulge these rules in our day-to-day life and how we can get rid of these material desires which...
Okay. Mm-hmm. Someone else?
Yeah, the word balance popped up in my mind.
Oh, interesting. Balance, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll leave it there. So yeah, obviously I like a bit provocative titles. So because a class, hopefully my desire is a class, something which you can take home with, something maybe to think about. And it's mentioned that the conflict, might be a conflict there. Where there's a conflict, we might need a balance. It's always both sides. You usually say if there's a conflict there, it's always both sides, no? And then the other thing is also, there's an issue in spiritual life with so-called material desires. It often feels very opposed to what we want to try to achieve in spiritual life. So you really got it spot on how you gave your feedback. I'm very, very great, very nice what you said. So yeah, there is I'll start off here. Or maybe first to clarify, I spoke about emotions. So in general, emotions are used for the whole of our feelings which can come up in our body. And then the word feeling is then usually often used for specific emotions like anger or fear or grief or longing. Longing is a very important emotion in spirituality, especially in Bhakti Yoga. So that's the distinction. The question may come, what's the difference between emotion and feeling? So emotion is usually used for the general body of feelings as a general world, just to give a bit of a orientation. So one may ask actually, where are these emotions coming from, which may conflict, which we need to maybe bring in balance, which are opposing our spiritual life and development. So in the scriptures we rely on, with the scriptures we base our Bhakti Yoga on, there's this very, very famous and very important verse which has a lot of content or gives a lot of understanding about about Bhakti Yoga, the Krishna conscious process. And it's actually spoken in Bengali. It's in a Bengali scripture, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In Bengali it's Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoy Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Udoy. So what does that mean? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem. It's Nitya Siddha, eternally there. It's eternally there. Nitya Siddha Krishna, this Krishna Prem, the love for God or Krishna, is eternally here in our hearts. Sadhya Kabunoy. There's no other place and time where it's not something external which comes, it's here in our heart. And Shravan Adi, this is also has a bit of a deeper meaning. In Bhakti Yoga there is different processes we perform. And it starts with Shravana, hearing. Adi means and, the following means Kirtan. We sing the holy names or we speak about spiritual topics is Kirtan. Smaran, we remember Krishna, we remember God. And it continues then is Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pada, Sevanam, we do service. There are actually these 9 main processes which are also explained in our scriptures, and this Shravan Adi refers to those 9 processes. Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte. Chitte is the Sanskrit, also in Sanskrit, the word for our consciousness, or for the energy of the soul, if you may say. Shuddha, it purifies. Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte Karaya Udoi, it gradually purifies. So, what in Bhakti, that's why I say it's a very loaded with knowledge verse, because it really explains in a nutshell what Bhakti Yoga is. It's about to reawaken this original love or consciousness in our heart. So this is a verse which is being quoted very often. And I'm referring to this verse, speaking of emotions, because that's the source of all our emotions. The soul has these emotions of love of God, which is love is a very strong emotion, and love facets down in all these different kinds of emotion. I mentioned longing. Bhakti Yoga is a lot about longing for God, for the association and connection to God, to Krishna. So then we may ask, okay, then wonderful, I have this, now we know the source, but what about all these so-called emotions which don't want God or don't want Krishna, which want my pleasure, which are thinking about me, which are urging me for my satisfaction? What about those? Why is that suddenly different then? What happened there? One may ask, what happened there? The soul is eternally in love with God, but now I'm here. No, I don't feel love of God. I feel love for myself and for all the objects and friends and people around me. So it's then said that the soul coming in this body gets covered with this body, material body. And that eternal energy of the soul gets filtered through this body and manifests with all those emotions or desires or longings which are separated from our original source, it's being said. And then it's kind of, sometimes Prabhupada speaks of a perverted reflection of the original energy of the soul. And that manifests in a more, we may call it selfish way. Spiritual life, in a way, is like a transformation from selfishness to selflessness, from own interest. Often it's translated as lust. I think it's a bit a heavy word. We say self-interest, or what did I say? Selfish desire into selflessness, or love, because the characteristic of love is you start forgetting yourself when you think of the person you love. You want to do something nice for the person of you love. And there's another very famous quote out of the Vedanta Sutra which supports this understanding, which even also goes a bit more to an aspect of emotion. It's in the very beginning of the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra, just to give an orientation, there are in the Vedic, or say in ancient Indian tradition, there are 6 schools, like 6 schools of knowledge. And one of them is the Vedanta school, where the Bhakti Yoga tradition belongs to this Vedanta school. And there is certain scriptures, there's a certain philosophy which is each school is based on one of those. And that school has the so-called Vedanta Sutras. Even if you would know Sanskrit, if you would read them, you would not understand anything. You really need a teacher to understand it. It's very condensed. Each word has a specific meaning and can be expanded. And then what we read is not Vedanta Sutra, it's the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is kind of a commentary on that Vedanta Sutra. So, to come back to where I left off, the verse is Anandamayo Vyasat. And it said that the living entity is by nature filled with bliss, by nature filled with happiness. And another explanation our teacher Prabhupada gives, the living entity by nature has an enjoying mentality. He wants to enjoy. And therefore, if filtered through this body we have at the moment, it turns out that we want to enjoy. It's totally natural, which is to be expected. We can't blame anyone. Like if someone comes to be interested in spiritual life and you can see, there's so many other emotions or desires are there, you can't blame him, it's totally natural. And that's it. So that's the spiritual explanation of where this energy, these emotions might come. So then, we heard of this conflict, as you mentioned, or we want to have a balance, or we want to see how do we deal with those emotions out there. And there's another problem coming to it. And even another problem is there not only material emotions, if I may call it as a problem, there are also these urges in the body. We have the urge of speech, we have a big machinery up here, we call it the mind, the meaning maker, or the great interpretist of what we perceive with our senses. and we have urges of our tongue, it wants to eat good things. We have the urges of our belly, it wants to be satisfied, and said also the urges of our genitals. They're there. We know this. This is a part of this body. You get one of those bodies, these scriptures which we rely on say it's together with those urges. And those urges are never neutral. They're always connected to some emotion. They're always connected to some experience we had, which says yes or no. I don't want this, or I want that. And then, as I try to point out with my title, what if those emotions, which are also connected to these urges of this body, are not on track with that what we would like to do spiritually? Like in the spiritual tradition, we have certain, as I said, rules. There are certain rules there which we can also say recommendations, because ultimately it's totally up to you if you want to follow one of those rules. So when it gets put to you, it's a recommendation, and you decide if you want to follow. It's like, maybe most of you, I guess, heard of the Bhagavad Gita. At the end of Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, the whole science of Bhagavad Gita. He speaks what he should do. Also, Arjuna had a problem. He also had an emotion which was disturbing him in his progress. He was feeling sad because the whole Bhagavad Gita is embedded in this big battle. And he had to fight against some of his family members, and he was feeling sad to fight against his family member. I won't go too much in that topic because we can give a whole day seminar on that, meaning of Bhagavad Gita, but there was an emotion there too. And Krishna spoke to him and gave him an understanding of what he could do. He suggested. And at the end of Bhagavad Gita he says, Yatechasi Takuru. I've spoken this to you, now you decide. So it's up to you. You decide. I'm I'm not ordering this to you. You decide, you get this knowledge, it's up to you. So in the same, spiritual life and genuine spiritual life is based on you get to know certain rules, certain ways of what is good for your spiritual life, and certain things which are not good for your spiritual life. We have in our scriptures things which are mentioned, like one very famous thing which is mentioned, which is not good for spiritual life, not only in Bhakti Yoga, also in Buddhism or in mystical traditions of several all over the world, is to avoid from eating meat. You know, you should have a vegetarian diet because it's favorable for your spiritual life, or the opposite, it's not favorable. So there is a certain recommendation, or you can say a rule which is given that if you want to really practice spiritual life, then that is recommended. So there's many of these rules there, which, as Krishna says, Yatecha Sita Thakuru, now you decide if you want to take it. So, and then by the practicing spiritualist, it's, as Prabhuji Gaurav mentioned, how do we deal with this energy which is coming up, which feels like contrary to what I want? So, to make a little... No, actually I'm right on track. I didn't want to make an excursion. The tendency is, especially when we get to know spirituality, we have a lot of experiences in our Hare Krishna movement. You get to know this spirituality and you become very determined at the beginning, or even a bit rigid. And that's also a tendency in Christianity. We have this saying, from Saulus to Paulus. He was I don't know, it's in the German, I don't know the English words. It's you are very lenient, very worldly, and you do all kinds of whatever you want. You convert, and you become very strict with yourself and with everyone else around you. And it may appear a bit dogmatic and fanatic even if you meet such a person, but it's actually a very natural development. I spoke once with a religionist scientist, and he said it's a natural pattern of young religious movement that they go a phase through this. So collectively and also individually, when someone takes up serious spiritualism, where you try to put yourself out of the center and God in the center, it's not just I take religion to have a better life, but really you wanna approach this transformative process of transforming lust into love at the beginning, because all those emotions we talk about, which seem to disturb our spiritual life, they're coming along with you. I had an interesting experience when I joined the temple here. I put on this mark on my head, I had these clothes on, and once in a while I would look down on myself and look into the mirror and say, oh my God, I became a Hare Krishna. I was like, what happened to me? and he was kind of reflecting that externally I had changed, but internally I was still had quite some stuff along from my previous life and way of thinking and way of feeling and way of wanting how I would live. And it was not always, as some of you mentioned, it wasn't always so much in track with what is spiritually mentioned. So there's a conflict came up. And so now I lost my track. Where did I want to go to? So anyway, I'm trying to find it. So yeah, what to do with these emotions which seem, I think I'm back, seem to conflict that what is suggested in spiritual life. It's said very favorable, kind of, you may call it a rule, get up early in the morning, sit down and meditate. We sit down and chant Hare Krishna, names of God. And early, why? Because it's a very favorable time in the morning. You can feel time before sunrise, it has a different quality. Like in German we say Morgenstund hat Gold im Mund, that the morning hours have gold in their mouth. So I know also people who are like where I used to work, the leader of the institution, she would get up every day at 4. Because, you know, if I get up that time, I do my thing. She did also her kind of meditation, so then I'm set for the day. So she felt also that morning time has some power. So that's one of what's suggested. But what if in the morning you lie in bed and the urge or feeling in your body is, no, the bed is so warm, I just want to lay sleeping in the bed and it's so nice. And the body again, he says, no, I want something different. I don't want to get up and meditate. I want to sleep in the warm bed. So what then? And there's many other things. When we come to the subject of the urges of our genitals, okay, then that's also a big thing. Very strong energy. So what to do on that path? And yeah, that's where I said the tendency is to beginning a bit rigid, and the tendency might be material emotion. No, I don't want it. It's not good. Material emotion. No, I don't. No, I'm spiritual. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I don't want this anymore. This should not exist. And I had a very interesting experience with that when I was also living in a temple. One of the recommendations is also, say a rule, is it's even said in Bhagavad Gita, those who balance their life, there we are with balance, who don't eat too much and don't eat too little, that's a perfect yogi, a perfect spiritualist. So I thought there in my very neophyte tendency, rigid understanding of spirituality, I should not eat so much. It's not good to eat too much. So every time I saw this, and the food here, in that guy there with these 2 big eyes on the altar, he's always makes sure there's very good food here. That's my experience. It's just, that's the mood of Jagannath. So there was very nice food in the morning. You know, can you imagine for breakfast you have like, halva nicely in semolina, fried in butter with sugar, and then you have sweet rice, boiled down milk with rice. That's ready for breakfast. So you can really go crazy with good food here. So I was thinking, no, I'm now a brahmachari, I'm a student living here in the temple, I should not eat too much. And whenever I ate too much, I would internally bang myself, girl, you ate too much, it's not good. Why did you do this again? And I came up to the point where I hardly could digest an apple. I was becoming bodily so sick and weak because of my mental tyranny I did on myself. So then I realized, this is not good. So I said, I accepted that I had an urge, speaking of urges, for some good food. The tongue is like, give me something nice to taste. And I accepted it. I said, it's okay. If you want to eat more, no problem, eat more. And it just took about 1 or 2 weeks and I was okay again. So speaking of the power of the mind, what you can do to yourself. So in dealing with those emotions, we have to see to not develop an unhealthy mentality, because we want a healthy mentality and we also want a healthy emotional body. So now I make a little excursion. That's my explanation. This is not scriptures. We have our body is channeled with emotional lines. So maybe you go and see something nice, a beautiful sunset, and you get goose pimples on your body. Oh, it's so beautiful. Or someone says something so touching to you, you get goose pimples on your body. And that's an emotional reaction. Like, I was very impressed lately. Very impressed. I had in my work I do, we have some investigation, and I had a 10-year-old boy, which I had to do an interview with. And then with kids, we often ask if you have, like sometimes they know Harry Potter. And he was like, oh yeah, Harry Potter. I said, oh, okay, great. If Harry Potter comes with his magic stick and he can fulfill 3 desires for you, what would you desire? Anything you want. And usually they say, oh, I want a new Xbox, PlayStation, and I want a new iPhone, and blah, 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 like that. So listen what that boy said. He said that I want, let's see that I get it right. Yeah, he said that on the whole world, everyone is happy and is peaceful. The whole world. That everyone on this planet has enough to eat and to drink. And the 3rd desire was that I get millions of desires volunteered, that to each person on this world I can give 10 desires so they can desire for it. I was like, 10 years old boy. So then an emotional reaction come to me now, I'm getting goose pimples. So we have emotional reaction to things. So, and we have, and in the same way we go through life, and yeah, that's where I was. I tend to always lose myself. So we have these emotional channels in our body, and they're like, there's flowing. So if we block, if we say, this desire for good food, block it. We like lock the channel to this channel good food. So we do this for 20 years. So when the time comes to experience some spiritual emotion, that channel is just dried out waterbed, and nothing will flow through it. We blocked it. So we need to keep these channels intact, because I believe every one of you, or most of you who practice spiritual life, you wouldn't be doing this if you wouldn't feel something when you do spiritual life. So maybe meditation, maybe in going to the nature. It said if you want to meet God, go to the temple of nature. Maybe in the Krishna temple, in a beautiful kirtan, singing the Lord's names, we feel something. So my question is, where do you feel it? In your body. These goosebumps or this feeling are there in your body. So we need to somehow, I like the word balance, you said, we need to somehow keep the balance of how much can we check certain emotions which might be not favorable for the spiritual life, and how much can we also allow them to keep those channels intact. And that needs some maturity, that needs some, especially also honesty to oneself. Like one very wonderful disciple of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he says, the kapatya, the cheater, if you want to cheat yourself, not even God can help you. So you got to be authentic, you got to be honest with yourself and that process. Okay, how can I balance that? How much of those material emotions which come up, which might be not connected to spiritual life, I need to allow to stay emotionally healthy and also mentally healthy. So it's the balance. So what then, if those emotions are so strong that you really come to the point of, but I can't practice my spiritual life like that. Okay, you say, yeah, you need to keep a balance, but I have no balance. It's just those emotions overpowering me. And I want to get up in the morning and meditate. I just stay in bed, or I want to try to follow some of those suggested rules in the scriptures, but I just don't have any taste for that. Why should I do that? I mean, come on. Why? Or, yeah, we see that this body has a strong set of urges, also emotions, which can really pull us away. So what do we do then? And there, Bhakti Yoga is very, very, very practical. I personally like practical things. Spiritual life needs to be very practical and down to earth. Like it shouldn't be somewhere up there and and then what does it mean practical in your daily life? So we have, now I need my little device here, because I made some screenshots of class. I want to make a little advertisement here. Anyone heard of Hari Parshat Prabhu? He's from India. He's a Sanskrit scholar. If you hear that he gives a class, just go and drop everything and run to his classes, and one of them amazing devotees. Like I said before in this Anandamaya Vyasata, the Vedanta Sutras, a few words which have so much meaning. He's a Sanskrit scholar and he opens up this philosophy like I never heard anyone open it up before. So he gives a lecture series. You find it on YouTube on the Upadeshamrita. It's one of our scriptures we read, and I think it's about 62-hour classes on 9 verses out of the scriptures. It's just totally amazing. So whoever listen to it, it's super amazing. I have some screenshots there from that. So, and he speaks about Aropya Bhakti. And aropya is another Sanskrit word which I looked up in the dictionary because he translated it as allegation, but it didn't really make sense to me. What means allegation? Allegation is like kind of I even forgot now what the English word means now. But aropa, it means imposing a burden or burdening or charging someone with. Like you pose a burden on someone. And it kind of explains it's the devotion where you pose a burden unto God, almost, you may say. But it's actually not a burden. It just explains actually this very intense situation where you really need something. You're really in trouble. And there he says, and he brings some scriptural injunctions. He says how the change happens. And he brings a verse out of the scriptures. He was initiated into ways of lust, a strong word, selfishness. He roamed around freely within the vast, unrestrained kingdom of lascivious, lustful desires, emotions which are totally off from spiritual life. How amazing. While singing the glories of Lord Hari, or God, that same person now exhibits tears in his eyes, and as soon as he sees, in his case it was a man, an attractive woman, he feels repulsed. While remembering his previous unwholesome desires, he thinks about it in disgust. So it was a man speaking. This is saying can be for a woman, maybe seeing a nice man. And then this is supported by another verse. I will go a bit faster. And he wants to make a point about this so-called aropya, that aropya bhakti, this bhakti where we almost seem to pose a burden onto the Lord. He brings another verse out of the Bhakti Sandarbha. There's a literature from Jiva Goswami, one of our teachers in our tradition. Those who desire impersonal liberation stop differentiating between good and bad acts. They just want to become free of that. But those desiring for bhakti, for love, for God, however, offer the act by seeing the misery and ill desires that will arise from that act. Or else the devotee simply prays, "May all merciful Lord be merciful unto me." I'll just bring a few more quotes to give the so-called evidence. Our tradition is there's a certain epistemology, that's a scientific word, how do you come to knowledge? And our epistemology is, or our tradition, how we explain or how we prove something is right, we base it on scriptures. So it's up to you if that's relevant for you. There's another verse, now in the offering of activities born out of one's innate nature which speaks of this body, this conditioning I spoke about. It has a certain nature. We see all different ways of characters. We have all dislikes and likes are different. There is also the question of offering dushkarma, unwholesome acts, or that which seems to be not favorable for spiritual life. And these acts are said to be offered by spiritualists also to the Lord. And then he gives a commentary on that by one of our teachers. When this verse says that one should offer all one's acts, it does not only mean acts performed out of scriptural duty, it also includes all acts performed according to one's innate nature. And the Bhagavad Gita says, whatever you do, offer unto me. There's a very important verse in Bhagavad Gita, Yat Karoshi Yat Najashni. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, you speak, whatever you work, offer it unto Krishna. And this is that Aropya Bhakti who says, even those things in us, like Prabhuji said, how do I deal with these material emotions? Those things connected to these material emotions which seem to be controversial to spiritual progress, even those we can offer to Krishna. We don't offer the act itself, but we offer the intention, what is behind it. It's even said that, okay, I go and brush my teeth tonight for Krishna, for God. I do it for His pleasure. It's also often described as indirect devotional service. Or I go to work, earn my money. It can be actually very direct, because if we maintain a nice household with a spiritual practice, we maintain this household with what we work. But even things which may seem to be opposed to spiritual life, we offer. It's actually this inclination we have, this taste we have still for it. The emotion is connected with a certain taste. Like, I don't want to get up in the morning, I can't get up for this taste for lying in the bed. I offer it to God. I say, oh, I have this. And there's also a certain mood of offering this. And this mood is given by another wonderful teacher in our tradition, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's known for making very nice Vaishnava poems, songs, where he explains the mood. And the song is called Gopinath. It's like you can translate this song as like a pitiful lamentation in front of God. He says, "O Gopinath," or "O God." Gopinath is the name of Krishna, the Lord of the Gopis. "I lost the battle. I lost it. All of my various endeavors have proved futile." Because, as you said, we try to have a certain control of what is coming in our body, but we see, oh, I have no control. "Now you and you alone are my only hope. O Gopinath, my mind has gone completely insane. It wants everything else, but just not this spirituality. It has no respect for any kind of discipline. We tried so much to discipline ourselves. I tried so much to get out of bed in the morning. I just couldn't make it. And it is forcing me to remain senselessly in the dark, ghastly pit," that's strong words, "of material sense gratification. It keeps me strong in this place where I'm just thinking of myself, in other words." So that's how we offer this. It's kind of even a kind of a transformation of this connected feelings we have to our body and to this world. We say, I'm totally helpless. I have no strength to control this. I offer it to you. And actually, that's really the place where bhakti is translated as devotional service, or a devotional attitude towards God, and an attitude where we take shelter. We often say surrender. In Sanskrit it's called sharanagati, but actually it's taking shelter in God or Krishna. Where we even say, even there, what is actually healthy for your spiritual life, even there I'm not able to do it. Here, I offer this to you. I have no one else than you who can help me there. And in this way, what I'm trying to present to you here is that in keeping a healthy emotional body, we need a balance, as you said very nicely, on our because it's not just a one-day thing, it's a lifetime journey. We need to keep a balance to keep an healthy emotional body. And at the times where you feel those material desires or material emotions are overpowering you, and I believe every one of us who tries to actively practice spiritual life, we come to a point where we realize my own strength, my own discipline, my own determination has failed me. And that's actually very good, because that's the time we can fall down to God, to Krishna, and really ask for help. And that's actually the mood of bhakti, what actually in essence also bhakti yoga is. It's that really taking shelter in God and say, I have no own strength. It's a great challenge. It might be, for me at the beginning it was very challenging. What? I have no strength and total shelter in God, and what about me? But once you can do that, it's the most liberating feeling you can ever have. So I'd like to end in one of my most favorite definitions of bhakti yoga. I guess in every class I speak, I'm telling it. Krishna Prem Rupa might know. I just can't resist to bring it again and again. This is from another of our scriptures, the Chaitanya Bhagavata. It's also a biography of Chaitanya, the incarnation of Krishna in this age. Bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga dan, bhakti e Krishna nam smarana krandan. So usually those verses are very condensed, and each word has a very important meaning. So it's said in our tradition, if something is repeated 3 times, it is really a message behind it. Like we have in also our tradition, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalonasti, Evanasti, Evanasti Gatyaranyata. In this age, the singing of the Lord's names is it's said it's the only way of really spiritually emancipating. So it's also big stress is there, the Lord's names. So here it said, Bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga, bhakti yoga dan, that this yoga or this love to God, this devotion, it's universal. It doesn't have to be in the Hare Krishna movement. Wherever, it's a universal principle. This feeling of taking shelter in a humble and loving mood towards God, it's a universal principle. It's our only wealth. It's that where it's said it awakens this eternal love in our heart. And this bhakti means while remembering the name of God or Krishna Nam, you cry while you do remember this. So it's different elements there. It said it maybe you're an advanced spiritualist and you have a lot of this love of God which is in your heart has awakened already a lot, and you're really crying out of love. It's like when a mother sees her child and it's so delighted, my tears may come to her eyes because she's so delighted by her child. But you may also cry because those material emotions are giving you a hard time. And that crying is also very well. They're speaking of longing, of a sense of urgency we have. So we come to the point where our own discipline doesn't help. And we think, what do I do now? There's a sense of urgency. And then there's a momentum where you can take shelter in God, sing His names, chant His names, pray, remember Him with this mood of crying. It doesn't have to be external tears. It can be in the heart. It can be this crying, this longing. Please help me in this. I'd like to come closer to you because I feel something when I come to you and I would like to come closer. But this body has brought things along which I'm out of control of. So please help me transform. And that's a very, very powerful momentum. So I'd like to end here. Thank you very much. Is there any comments or questions? Oh yes, Gopal.
One thing probably, thanks for wonderful lecture. The challenges which we go through, yeah, it is not easy. It would be great if we can hear some testimonies, like which somebody can share how they have gone through this materialist desire, when young in the practice with the Krishna consciousness.
If I could speak on a testimony, oh yeah. I mean, we have one very famous testimony in our tradition. It's about Bilvamangala Thakur. He was very attached to a prostitute. He would go and visit her again and again, and he realized at one point, this is not. Isn't that? Correct me. He went to her in a raging storm. That was Bilvamangala Thakur. He went to her. Huh? After the funeral of his father, he was so attached to her that after the funeral of his father, in a raging storm, one of those storms you just want to stay inside because you're afraid a tree will drop on your head, he went to her and he came there totally torn up and shattered. After the funeral of his father, he went to her because he wanted to go and see her. And she said to him, if you would be so determined to go to God like you're determined to see me, you would be a pure soul instantly. And that really struck him. So this made a change in his life, and he said, okay, enough of this. I'll go to Vrindavan and I'll just practice Krishna consciousness there. And on his way he got invited by a family. And he was there going as a pilgrim, as a sadhu, and the tradition says, when a sadhu comes to your home, you say, okay, I offer you whatever you want. And his desire came up again. He said, okay, can you offer me your wife? And there was a conflict because the tradition said whatever your sadhu guest wants, you offer to him. And there's also, of course, the traditional the chastity of your wife. So you're really he was really in a conflict there. And then Bilvamangala Thakur like, what am I doing? And he took 2 knives and stuck them into his eyes. He said, I don't want to see anything of this world anymore. And he blinded himself. So that incident where he went to that prostitute had left such an impression on him and created such a determination that he even blinded himself. And now, or then later, we have very, very beautiful poems by Bilvamangala Thakur which are full of love of Krishna, which are full of expression of love for Krishna. So he, from that, as I said, it's a transformation from lust or desire to enjoy one's senses to love of God. So we often refer to him in our tradition as of this transformation. And I know, yeah, you're making a valid point. I came to my spiritual life and I'm really asking, does it really work? Sometimes I was thinking, those devotees who I felt were very advanced, they already came very advanced. So they never went through a process. And I think, what about me, who's like really Prabhuji asked me today about my biography. I said, well, it's a very sad biography. I'm a conditioned soul of this material world. And but yes, I'm still full of material emotions, but compared to what I had before, it's much less. And this Krishna, these big eyes, or the one with the flute standing there next to Radharani, he's a heart stealer. He's really a heart stealer. And if you keep put at his lotus feet, whenever what happens, he will change you. This I know now. He will do a work on your heart. That I can guarantee. And if it doesn't happen, you can come to me and blame me. I will stand in for this. No. Hare Krishna. Any other question? Or comment? Oh, okay.
Aropa is making count
wonderful. Accountable or countable? Countable. Ah, okay.
Yeah, countable or countable. It is.
Yeah. I've still not fully understood it. Next time I see Hari Parshad, I have to ask him about this, because the idea with allegation, how it translates, doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. Yes.
Just wanted to share something personal from my experience. Sometimes you have material fall downs, material emotions, been doing many bad things that we maybe should not do, and then we also think, I cannot chant anymore, I cannot come to the temple, I'm not accepted by God. And so my experience is never give up the process. Whatever you do, always keep on chanting, keep on bhakti yoga. And when we do this, then one day Krishna will taking over. Just keep going, whatever will happen, and come to the temple, chant, and
Yeah, wonderful is we should never think. We should always think, I'm very fallen, but we should never think I'm too fallen to come to Krishna, because that in Krishna's eyes, that does not exist. He loves us the way we are. Like if we think, we said there is 8,400,000 different species of life, and our scriptures say we might have transmigrated through all those 8 million several times in this material world. So much. So I don't want to give any further explanations, but we did a lot of nonsense, a lot of crazy things, a lot of things which are totally opposed to spiritual life. So why should we be sitting here in the Hare Krishna temple or wherever in front of God if that would matter? It doesn't matter, because it's the nature of God is all merciful. You can, whatever happened, you can always go to God, because He always loves us the way we are. He will purify us of that. He will show us what we need to change, but it's very loving. Yeah. Thank you for your input. Oh, there's another. Yes, please.
Question. Is it so that Krishna has a very intimate love relationships also? So like for those who like having such feelings, maybe like a lasting feeling, is like maybe also not to judge oneself for such feelings, because such feelings is that we evolve, because it is like maybe being attracted to someone is maybe also that learning to evolve. It's like such an attraction is not just evil, but learn to transform it and to observe it. Or what recommendations are there?
I mean, you're bringing it spot on. Everything in this world, that's one thing. If you might, could you maybe close the door? Thank you. That's my humble little realization. Everything what happens to you in this life, as a person or as a spiritualist, is master tailored for your evolvement, for your learning, your experience. And it's up to you if you want to accept it as a burden or something which is their problem, or something which goes well and you're totally absorbed in it and you forget everything else, or you accept it as the universal educational system or educational function which gives you a life experience where you can experience something and evolve from this. Definitely. Yeah, it's a very important point. And it's so connected to spiritual life that we see in our life, oh, this is happening to me. What is this teaching me? What experience is this giving? Like if we have strong material emotions for things, it might be also there given to God almost, that it's churning your mood to surrender to Him. And it makes it even harder for you maybe, that at one point you really come to this point where you start crying for Him. Because He's showing you, don't rely on your own strength, for instance. So yeah, wonderful point. Thank you very much. Is that fine? Or yeah? Okay. So we're speaking about the urges of the body. There's one very important urge we can satisfy now. It's the tongue, because food is ready for you, waiting there. I may stop here. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Krishna.
It's Grace Jack.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you very much, dear Prabhuji, for giving us such nice perspectives on this very important topic, since Bhakti is all about emotions, so very, very appropriate. Thank you so much. So just a few announcements, if we can bear for 2-3 minutes. First of all, most of you will have come to know that last Monday, our dear Christian Prabhu left us and moved on to another chapter of his spiritual life. And so tomorrow we will hold a cremation ceremony in the Nordheim crematory. And everybody is warmly invited to join the ceremony. We will have a memorial from 11 to 1, and then thereafter there will be the cremation. So everybody can come. It's open for everyone. And of course, we will do bhajan, we will pray for him. And it's very nice if many devotees can be there to help him onwards on his journey. And also, I just wanted to mention again that we're in the prelude to our Christmas Prabhupada Marathon, where devotees all over the world make special endeavors to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. And so, right now, we will still have the option to get Srila Prabhupada's books for a very cheap price, so that you can take them home and distribute yourselves. And also, next Saturday, we will go out again together. So everybody who would like to make an experience of what it means to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, they can come with us. More infos are out there in the vitrine. And another announcement is that on Sunday, in a week's time, at 11 o'clock, we will have a special Sankirtan meeting, actually. His Grace Rohini Sutta Prabhu will come and speak a little bit about marathon and inspire the devotees to go out. If you know, Rohini Sutta Prabhu is a spiritual master in our movement, and he's been on the forefront of book distribution for many, many years, and is very experienced, and thus will be able to share many of his secrets with us. So if you can, please come. That will be a very wonderful occasion. And then just again, for those of you who might not have been here in the beginning, at 8 o'clock today, His Grace Madhvapu will bless us with his presence, and so there will be nice kirtan going on from 8 to 9:30. If you can, please stay with us. So yeah, now no more holding back. Please run to the table and get your prasadam and take as much as you can. Thank you very much for coming. Hare Krishna.